At Team Toyota, they've been selling and servicing new and used Toyotas in your community for over 50 years. And you can reserve your next new Toyota with them today. You'll get a realistic timeline, and even in this crazy market, they won't charge you over MSRP. Or don't wait at all. With over 75 certified Toyotas, including a bunch of RAV4 and Highlanders, you can drive one home today. And you can always trust them to maintain your current vehicle. Their service and collision centers are high-tech, comfortable, and will save you time and money. Team Toyota can help you go anywhere you want, but they'll always be your hometown team. Just visit teamtoyota.net and choose from 3 locations in Langhorne, Glen Mills, or Princeton. Hey folks, and welcome to the Phillies Talk podcast presented by Team Toyota. Corey and Jim here with you as always, and this is not the podcast that we want to be bringing to you, but since we last sat down late last week, Jim, obviously the devastating news that Bryce Harper has this fractured thumb from the 97-mile-per-hour fastball that he took to that left thumb off Blake Snell Saturday night in San Diego. It alters the course of the Phillies season. To their credit, they've picked up 2 wins. They won the game Saturday night, and then they won Sunday behind some stellar bullpen work to take 3 out of 4 in San Diego. But, man, Bryce Harper is one of the most irreplaceable players in all of baseball, and now the Phillies are without him for the foreseeable future.
Agree with everything you said. Season altering. They got 2 wins with him down. I really loved the fact that he was on the bench yesterday as they were kind of pulling off that late win, as he was on the bench supporting the team. But, I mean, you used the right description, season altering. We're going to find out how much it alters the season. I still think this situation is kind of evolving. Obviously, he's got a broken thumb. But he's getting some more evaluation early this week, and we're going to find out the extent of the broken thumb. If he needs surgery and it needs to be pinned, it's going to be significant time. If you use the model of just earlier this month, really, Gene Segura suffered a broken finger, and all of a sudden it's 10 to 12 weeks. Well, that's because it was a displaced fracture, which you can kind of envision what that is through the word displaced. It's not like straight, I guess. So it required pinning and longer recovery. I guess if Harper's is, kind of a nice clean break, maybe it's low end of the estimate, maybe 4 to 6, and you get him back. If it's got to be pinned and have surgery, it's going to be longer. So definitely season altering. And even if it's on the short end, I mean, they still looking at a deficit in the standings. I mean, they've tightened it up in the wild card, obviously, with this tremendous month of June they've had. But they just to stay where they are, they really can't afford a slip, even over the next 4 to 6 weeks, if it's on the low end. So he's, as you mentioned, irreplaceable, but somebody's going to have to replace that or come close to replacing that production. And it's going to require a ensemble effort. It's going to require existing guys playing better, producing more on the roster. And I think it's going to require the front office to, as they were plotting strategy for the trade deadline, I felt like pitching was their big need. Now they have another bigger need just to survive however long Harper's out, so you don't slip off the map here. And that's probably a DH or an outfielder. If you get some defense, Castellanos can DH, but I think you need some production in there, offensive production, and some help in the outfield. So front office, in addition to the guys in that lineup and the clubhouse needing to step up, front office needs to do some good work as well here to help this team survive this unexpected and really difficult issue.
Right, because, I mean, the Phillies still invested the money they invested in this team, whether or not Bryce Harper is going to miss time. So it's not like you just give up now. They're 4 games over 500. As you mentioned, they played very well in June. Before we talk about some of these trade options, though, something I wanted to ask you about is Nick Castellanos. So we both agree that he is a guy who really needs to perform in the second half. JT Realmuto as well. Castellanos went 4 for 5 Sunday. He singled 3 times off of Yu Darvish. Do you think that Castellanos being able to DH regularly could benefit him in the second half? I mean, he has been playing right field every day, and that was not part of the plan when the Phillies signed him. It was going to be a rotating cast at DH with a lot of Castellanos in that spot. And obviously the Bryce Harper injury changed how the Phillies have strategized and used that position. But I mean, you're just thinking about it, it seems like it would probably help him, right? I mean, Nick Castellanos is not known as a premium defensive player. He struggled a bit out there this season. I'm sure that's had to play a role in some of his at-bats.
I totally agree with you. I think he's done more than struggled a little bit. I mean, I think he struggled a lot. He hasn't gotten to balls that I think even an average right fielder gets to. His arm was really tested up at Citi Field in that series that I think kind of was the last nail in Joe Girardi being let go. So yeah, it may take some pressure off him. He's alluded to feeling pressure, maybe personally or as a team, but he certainly has used that word. Maybe it would alleviate some pressure. He could just concentrate on offense. It was good to see him get 4 hits yesterday. Didn't knock the cover off the ball. I didn't think he drove the ball, but sometimes it only takes a couple. Get back on the base paths, get feeling what it's like again to feel like you're contributing. See some good numbers in the box score next to your name to kind of get you going. There's been a lot of discussion about the Atlanta Braves last year overcoming losses of Acuna. I mean, they didn't have Soroka, and they lost Ozuna. And the front office went out and did a really good job addressing that stuff. And the Phillies front office needs to give this team a boost, and they know that. But one thing I think we miss with the Braves is Freddie Freeman stepped up, and Dansby Swanson stepped up, and Austin Riley stepped up. So the guys that were there really, in addition to the good work done by great GM Alex Anthopoulos, the guys that were there took it upon themselves to fill the void. And that's, I think, the chief thing that needs to happen here is Schwarber needs to keep playing like he has in June. It's been great. Hoskins has done very well in June. But they need Castellanos. They need Realmuto. They need Alec Bohm to, I don't know, I know he's a young player, but might be time to graduate from young player status to a guy who starts you can rely on and to do some consistent damage. Didi, they need more from him. But mostly, I'd say you need Realmuto to do more. You need Castellanos to do more. Guys, big expectations, paid as big difference makers and haven't been throughout the course of the season. Both, swinging a little bit better lately. Maybe that's a sign of things to come. And then, I still think it's incumbent on the front office to get them a little help in the outfield. Maybe somebody who can help them on defense and help the offense as well. I mean, there are some guys like that. A guy like Benintendi might be interesting. I think could help in both those areas. And certainly there are others. Mentioned a few names on the website today. We'll see which way it goes.
Right now, with Harper hurt, the Phillies skew a little right-handed at the top of the lineup. There's Schwarber, who is going to continue to lead off because he's been so impressive there. I mean, perhaps the Phillies could move him in the lineup, but it doesn't seem like that would be, the smart thing given how hot he's been. But then you think about the next 3 big bats they have would be Hoskins, Castellanos, Realmuto. So in thinking about some of these trade ideas, it would seem that they would want to lean left-handed. I mean, Didi Gregorius hit cleanup on Sunday. That is kind of an indication to me that they still want to try to split up. JT Realmuto did not start on Sunday, so that played a role in it. Garrett Stubbs got the start. But even if Realmuto was in the lineup, I could have seen Gregorius batting 4 with Realmuto 5 to split up all those right-handed hitters. You mentioned a bunch of options on the website today. There are some really intriguing names there, some offense-first guys, and then others like Benintendi who'd be able to play the field a little bit too.
Yeah. David Peralta maybe hits left-handed, help you in the outfield. I mean, a guy I've long liked, and I think it, is getting better is that Ian Happ, outfielder. And then, the Cubs, they also have a guy like David Robertson. Maybe you could explore a package because the Phillies still, in my mind, still need bullpen. A guy like Trey Mancini, I mean, he's a right-handed bat, but, Jesus Aguilar, if you're going to go strictly kind of DH, Josh Bell, switch hitter.
He's having a really good season, Josh Bell.
Probably comes here more of a DH. Nelson Cruz, right-handed bat, but obviously we know the damage he can do. It would be great to have a left-handed bat. I agree with everything you say, but I think most important is a productive bat. I'd rather have a productive right-handed bat than a so-so left-handed bat.
Right.
So I definitely think there's a lot of things they can ponder and ways they can go. I mean, the question, and it always is at this time of year, and it was last year, I think they poked around on Kimbrel, and I think they liked the idea of Kimbrel, and that was the name that they wanted was Mick Abel, and I just don't think he can do that. Teams had trouble. The good teams develop, bringing their own pitchers to the major leagues and getting their best years out of them as young, controllable talents. And the Phillies need to build their rotation that way. And I just believe you need to be protective of a guy like Mick Abel, of a guy like Andrew Painter. You have 4 arms on that Jersey Shore roster, and it appears like Painter's getting a little innings rest here. But with Painter and Abel and Griff McGarry and Ben Brown, some serious arms, and I'd be protective of all of them. Would I consider maybe Ben Brown or McGarry? I mean, maybe, depending on the return. I think you have to consider everything. But, Francisco Morales, he's really – he struggled recently with his control, but profiles as a guy who maybe can close the big leagues someday. You have to just always weigh the prospect cost with what you're getting back. They have catching depth. Do you consider Rafael Marchand? I think they would move him. Logan O'Hoppe, I don't know. I don't know that this team is one. If you're one player away from the World Series, I think you consider everything, but they're not there. So These are all very, very difficult calls. Whether or not you move a guy like O'Hoppe, it's a tough call because Real Muto has showed, signs of some decline this season, and they need more out of him. So these are all tough calls for the front office, made more difficult by the fact that you're not one piece away from the World Series. You're probably not even 2 pieces away from the World Series, but you need to get to the postseason finally in 10 years. And if you get to the postseason as a wild card team, and you got Wheeler and Nola coming at you, or Wheeler and a healthy Eflin coming at you, or Suarez, if he gets, continues to build on the other night's good outing, you might have a chance to win a series and be like a team nobody wants to face early in that postseason. So that's what Dombrowski and Sam Fuld and those guys all get paid the big bucks for. It's a complicated issue, and now it's made more complicated by Bryce Harper's injury and how long he's going to be out, and not knowing how long it's going to be out. He's going to be out, and trying to weigh all that. And but that's why they get paid the big bucks. So they're JT and Castellanos, they're all kind of under the gun here, and so is the front office.
Well, a big part of the weekend was the bullpen, the Phillies bullpen. I mean, obviously the Bryce Harper injury soured everything, but Saturday and Sunday there was a stretch where Phillies relievers retired 34 consecutive Padres hitters. They were perfect from the 6th inning Saturday until the 8th inning Sunday. And that was a lot of different pitchers. It was Bilotti and Hand and Dominguez and Jose Alvarado and Corey Knebel. And over the last 2 weeks, the last 12 games, the Phillies bullpen has a sub-1 whip, has an opponent's batting average of 164. I'm not saying it's because of the switch that they made. It was when they moved Knebel into more of a setup role, took him out of the 9th inning. But since that decision was made, guys have really filled those roles. Knebel's been solid as a setup man. Sir Anthony Dominguez has been, he's continued to thrive at the back of games. And on Sunday, it looked like Dominguez was unavailable, even though he hadn't. It's not like he had pitched 2 days in a row, but it looked like he was unavailable. And Andrew Bilotti got the 9th inning and pitched a 1-2-3 ninth. He's also been pretty good for the Phillies. Solid as kind of a swing man. Sometimes he appears late in games, sometimes he appears early in games. But Phillies bullpen for the last 2 weeks, got to give him credit. They've been pitching very well.
Oh, no question. It was very encouraging to see Knable throw the ball better. You mentioned Bellotti, good job there. Alvarado, a night earlier, when he struck out the side, he was just kind of dominant. I mean, maybe he found himself going back to AAA. He's throwing that cutter more. He's looked very good. Bullpens are a lot like lineups. Sometimes they start feeding off each other, and there's that internal competition, and success can be contagious. It's a team within a team, a unit within a unit, and they grow a camaraderie down there, and they all pull for each other. And one guy has success, the other guy wants to duplicate it. So, and I also think confidence plays a big role when a bullpen gets on a good roll, and clearly they are, and they need to keep this going here in this coming week because it's what a week with the Braves and the Cardinals. I mean, two really, really good teams.
Yeah, 12 of the next 15 games for the Phillies are against the Braves, Cardinals, and Blue Jays. They have those two series with the Cardinals coming up. And, man, the Braves have probably been the best team in the National League in June. They are 19-5 in June. They lead the NL this month in batting average, slugging percentage, homers, runs scored. You look up and down that lineup, they just have everybody producing. Dansby Swanson has been their best player this month. Riley, Duvall, Ozuna driving in runs. This rookie, Michael Harris, the center fielder, he's been a spark plug at the bottom of the lineup, and he already looks like one of the best defensive center fielders in the NL. So big Phillies-Braves series. I mean, when you look at the pitching matchups, though, the Phillies do have Wheeler and Nola going, and they're facing three righties in the Braves rotation who haven't pitched well lately. I mean, Charlie Morton has pitched well his last two starts, but has an ERA near 5. Ian Anderson, who they'll face in Game 3, has struggled with controls, allowed 4+ runs in 5 of his last 7 starts. And Kyle Wright in the middle game, 21 hits he's allowed in his last 11 innings. So while Bryce Harper is out, Phillies do have a chance to potentially score some runs.
No question. They got to maybe you're catching those Braves starters at the right time, but, we all know Charlie Morton is capable of dialing one up at any time, and we've seen it before. The Phillies got him pretty good in Atlanta last time through there. But, I think the Phillies, if Schwarber and Hoskins are kind of setting the tone up top, seeing some pitches and doing some damage at the end of at-bats, it just makes them all better. But they're going to miss Harper. They're going to definitely miss Harper because he does a lot of damage with those guys on base. And they're just, like I said, they're going to need everybody else to step up. But, I don't think you can approach it that the Braves starters have been struggling. You got to go out there like they're all-stars, and you got to be on top of your game because, the Braves are going to be that way. Very professional team. That manager, Brian Snitker, always has them ready to play. They play the Phillies tough. But if the Phillies are going to, continue this hot June into July, this has to be statement week for them. They beat some teams they're supposed to beat in the month of June, but also beat some good teams like the Padres. And you got to keep it up here and bring it into the Atlanta series and the St. Louis series. Who's after that? Marlins?
Yeah, they finish up with the Marlins, up the first half with the Marlins.
We know what the Marlins, they're tough, always tough on the Phillies. So.
And that Toronto series, there's a lot of intrigue heading into that just because any team that goes into Toronto now, there seems to be 3, 4, 5 players that aren't eligible to play in the series because of vaccine requirements. So that'll be a storyline right before the All-Star break as well.
No question. So, and Toronto's a good club too. There's no let-up. There is no let-up. And the Phillies have had to play some of their best ball they've played in years. I mean, just to get over 500 by a few games, just to become relevant again, just to dig out of that hole. And they're still, a third-place club looking up and in the middle of that wild card hunt. It's just, this level – they have to sustain this level of play because they dug such a big hole. They can't even afford a little dip, or it's going to really sting them. So you got to keep it going.
Well, they have the right guy on the mound to start off the 3-game series against the Braves. Zach Wheeler against Charlie Morton, Tuesday night at 7:05 at Citizens Bank Park. It's the Phillies and the Braves. Thanks a lot for listening to this Phillies Talk podcast. Jim and I will catch you later in the week.